The Walt Disney Company is updating their DAS policies. You already knew that, but did you know that they're also threatening to ban people who are abusing the system? Let's talk about that on That Park Place. Hello, I am Jonas J. Campbell, an investigative reporter for That Park Place. With me, as always, is my Wookiee co-pilot, Mr. Vash Sky. But today, we are joined by the Obi-Wan Kenobi of our triumvirate here, Lou Wasserman's ghost.
Does that make Hollywood a vile den of scum and villainy, or whatever it was?
I think at this point we're lying in the frozen tundras of Hoth, being warmed by maybe a tauntaun, but maybe not yet. And you are reaching out to say, "Go to Universal Studios to the Stella Nova system." But maybe
I warned you about that tauntaun gaze problem of yours, Jonas. So,
well, let's get to the topic at hand. As people are wont to tell us to get on with the topics here. Forgive me, everyone. Disneyland threatens lifetime ban for those who lie during Disability Access Service registration. This from Iman Palm of KTLA5. LA's very own. Disneyland guests who lie during the registration process for the park's updated Disability Access Service program will be permanently banned from the happiest place on earth and its sister park in Orlando. Both parks unveiled changes to their DAS programs on Tuesday, which aim to curb the misuse riddled in the widely used program, which results in longer attraction queues and backup Genie Plus lanes for guests. Guys, first of all, this is for both parks, which I think that's pretty common. When you get kicked out of one park, you get kicked out of both of them. But what is the problem with Genie Plus right now, and why is DAS being fixed before Genie Plus?
Well, Genie Plus,
have we got time for all the problems with it?
Yeah, exactly. It's hard to distill it down to one problem, right? But I think the biggest problem is the overselling of it. That is absolutely for sure. There's simply too many people on the system. And, well, I mean, when an attraction breaks down, you see these long lines of not DAS recipients, but Genie Plus or Lightning Lane recipients at the entrance to those attractions, backing up just as far as the eye can see. So the problem really is all these attractions have a set capacity, and if you're allotting any for Lightning Lane or Genie Plus, and you're having a disproportionate amount of DAS make up that allotment right there, that obviously cuts into how many Genie Plus you can sell per day and how many are sold per day.
And this is wild. They're saying that DAS use has tripled since Genie Plus has been implemented at the parks.
Effectively.
And there are even rumors from some sites that is an understated figure. So the idea here seems to be, and whether or not Disney has said this, is that people are possibly abusing the DAS system, and that Genie Plus is being overused. DAS is being used as a free way to get around the Lightning Lane or get Lightning Lane for free, in that perhaps this is going to weed out all of the people who are abusing that system. Is that a fair assessment?
I mean, that's going to be the attempt here. They have done this actually.
Cheaters gonna cheat.
Yeah, they've done this twice now that I know of. This is going to be the third iteration of this whole thing. And yeah, they want to crack down on the DAS abuse here. It's interesting because I was able to find this article in time for this segment right here by Disney Tourist Blog by Tom Bricker. Does some amazing stuff in the photography area of the Disney parks and so forth. Disney World cracks down on DAS abuse. This was written last year. Interestingly enough, you can actually see right here that Walt Disney World has seen an increase in the abuse of its DAS service, and it's starting to crack down on improper DAS use as a result. This post covers how they're accomplishing that, along with rumors about Lightning Lane utilization and our commentary on what's happening right here. This revelation actually comes thanks to two high-profile articles about Walt Disney World suddenly trespassing third-party tour guides from the parks. And interestingly, this actually happened with the prior system, GAC, or the Guest Assistance Card, where people were attempting to sell access to the attractions via their GAC, or in this case DAS, and doing it as unofficial touring parties and so forth that they would post on Facebook or any number of places and attempt to monetize themselves through the GAC or DAS access that way. And so this is effectively Disney signaling, if you do this, this is a lifetime ban, and not just at the respective park, mind you. This is a lifetime ban across the resorts as well.
Right. So now I've seen stories of people getting trespassed, which means that you cannot come back for a single year. But with this, it sounds like they are saying, no, that's it. You are done with Disney for the rest of your life.
Correct. Which is a harsh stance to take, obviously, but it is the only way to ensure or help ensure that the people who require these services can actually get it. Now, there has been a lot of discussion about that, by the way, about people saying, hey, I mean, if you're like let's say you're a veteran or something, and you suffer from a disability that doesn't necessarily meet those approval lists, yet you do get, you are able to overcome your limitations because of your disability through these systems. What about that? There's been a lot of discussion online about that, and we went over a lot of the rules connected with this new system right here, but we didn't touch on a couple of them that are worth pointing out right here. DAS party size limited to 4 instead of the prior 6. That's a huge change. Now, I guess they're going to have exceptions for family members, and how they'll distinguish between those is going to be a very interesting discussion going forward. But you can see a couple of these revisions right here that they are doing. They're going to, like I said, they're going to encourage return to queue processes for guests, which is also going to be very tricky when you have like a attraction like Indiana Jones Adventure, for example, and where that queue and where you can enter from in that queue versus where the ride vehicles load is like a quarter of a mile away. So how you're going to be able to return the queue in a system like that, in a situation like that, with an attraction like that, it's going to be really interesting to witness here. Also, too, they're saying that after you've actually scanned in your DAS, now you have a 10-minute window in which you won't be able to reserve another DAS until that window has expired. That's also a change from the previous system here. So they're enacting a lot of change to, one, to limit how many people actually utilize the system at one time, how frequently, and who actually gets access to it going forward.
Now there are online, I've been made aware of this, and I'm kind of shocked that Disney has allowed it for as long as they have allowed it. But there are apparently videos online from influencers who talk about how to get around the DAS system and how to use the DAS system. I'm hearing stories about nannies who advertise in the Southern California area, talking about how they have DAS access, and that's why you should hire them as a nanny for your kids. I don't know if they would count that as abuse to say, oh, by the way, if you hire me as your nanny, I am disabled, because you would assume that they are actually disabled if they are advertising that kind of thing. But as with any system, there's always going to be someone who tries to work through and qualify it for reasons that may not be the reasons that were laid out originally. But in this one, I think this is a good thing. And also it's worth pointing out that from a legal standpoint, Disney will, unless they want to get the press down their throat and the Department of Justice down their throat and the Americans with Disabilities Act thrown in their face, anyone who has a legitimate disability, they're going to tend towards allowing them access to DAS. I don't have any question there whatsoever. I'm seeing a lot of people who might, what's the best way to put this? They might believe that they have a disability, and Disney will say no to them, and Disney might be in the right for saying they don't have a disability. And we're just waiting for the moment when someone gets online and points out their disagreement with the Walt Disney Company on whether or not they legitimately have a disability. And that's going to be a That's going to be a nasty day, especially if it results in a lifetime ban for that person.
And you know that there are people out there who are going to play this for all it's worth. We're using the Americans with Disabilities Act and using the law and intentionally set Disney up to disqualify them and then come back and sue them. Because that's the world we're in, that people sue over stuff like this.
So when upon the first reformation of the system, or I shouldn't say the first, but the transition between GAC to DAS, you had a number of lawsuits actually filed, and I believe it was a class action at one point. It might have been dismissed. I'm not actually sure what the result was from that lawsuit, but it's definitely a point that should be brought up. The other point that I wanted to bring up, and this was actually from Marty, who's been, like I said, a great source for all kinds of stuff related to the parks. He was suggesting that perhaps Disney was not using a third-party system because that third-party system was facing lawsuits of its own. And maybe Disney wanted to necessarily see what resulted in those lawsuits against that specific company before actually engaging with them. So again, this is not going to be the final time these are revised. These things will very likely change going forward based on need.
And in some ways, that's backwards in the sense that if somebody is going to game the system in order to create a lawsuit, Disney's got deeper pockets than any of these systems they might have been using.
Right.
And they could have blamed, well, we let those guys run it and they did it. And sorry about that, but your beef is with them and not with us, the millionaire company.
Billionaire, yes.
Well, yeah, okay.
The thing that of course is worth pointing out here is that Universal and SeaWorld do have systems that are in place, and there were rumors going around that Disney was considering using those third-party systems, which would have pushed the liability to those third-party systems instead of to the Walt Disney Company. There is something to be said for plausible deniability when it comes to guest experience. If they want to say you have to register with this service, of course, when anything changes at Walt Disney World, there's always going to be someone who shows up to the park who deserves accommodation according to the Americans with Disabilities Act. That you don't want them turned away. You don't want their Disney experience to be that Disney would not allow them in the park, or they had a nightmare day because they decided to go with their family into a park that was not accommodating to a disabled guest. But that with that being said, guys, is there anything we need to add before we wrap up here?
Well, only that you said it was in some ways limiting on veterans, and of course Disney would never do that. Shades of Green, Pathway.
Yeah, no, that is for sure the case. Look, some people are already putting the math together. We've been pretty upfront about this early on, and I've had discussions with Jonas about this numerous times, that this is a move, as unfortunate as it is, because of Genie Plus and Lightning Lane, because these services have now become a pay-for-play type structure and have become a revenue stream for the Walt Disney Company. They want to preserve that, and they're seeing an uptick in Lightning Lane usage, although the Lightning Lane sales or Genie Plus are stagnant or even down in some cases. So they want to correct that. And so for a lot of people, perhaps they feel that these are changes that are being mandated in order to take control of the system, and in a lot of ways they are, but there is a monetary incentive structure here, and it's important to be aware of that. Would it be
fair, Vash, to say that they see more revenue in doing these things and in Genie and whatever than in increasing capacity, at which point it would all be moot?
That's it exactly.
Now, that being said, maybe that is the strategy here. They're trying to preserve Genie Plus. I'm not saying they're getting rid of Genie Plus, even though they definitely should get rid of Genie Plus and go back to the Fast Pass system. They can't do that because too much parks revenue is tied up in Genie Plus right now. It's strangling the parks, and maybe they're trying to alleviate that and change the image that they have right now as a nickel and diming company. I would say it's funny that Comcast is on the upswing as far as image, probably because of their NBC Universal purchase, and Disney is headed in the wrong direction. Who would have thought that Brian Roberts and Bob Iger would be flowing in that yin yang into other sectors in that way? But of course, we want to drop this.
Two corporate ships that pass in the night.
Yes, absolutely. And Brian Roberts being ahead of Bob Iger in terms of public relations for their company. That's an amazing thought right there. Full of irony. That being said, we want to throw it to the comment section down below. Will you be changing your thoughts on DAS, knowing that Disney could punish people who are trying to abuse the system? Do you think that this is something that will save Lightning Lane or the reputation of Genie Plus, the thing that is strangling the Walt Disney Company parks and resorts? And of course, like this video if you like this video, and consider subscribing to That Park Place for all the news that should be fun.
Thanks for watching That Park Place News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.